Hi Flosstube, it's Sheri, ColoradoCrossStitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. This is my first Flosstube. Well, it's actually 1.3 because it's the third time I've done the first Flosstube. My first one was just a practice one. My second one was fine, went through the whole thing, and then my husband's doing the editing for me. And so he was working on that a few days later, and he came upstairs and he said, it stopped in the middle of your talk. And he said, but you can just do the last half again. Well, the problem was I'd gotten my hair cut that week, and which is also not a big deal. But I went from, wow, you haven't had your hair cut for 10 weeks to, oh, wow, you got your hair cut. So I thought that's going to be a little too jarring. So anyway, doing it over today. I'm happy that you're here, and I wanted to do Flosstube because I've so enjoyed all of your Flosstubes, and I feel like I have gotten inspired by you. I've certainly bought a lot of stash because of all of you, and I just wanted to kind of jump in and share what I'm doing, and mostly because I need some stitching friends. I have a lot of knitting friends. I own a yarn shop called the Loopy Ewe, and I've had that since 2006. I love knitting, but I also love cross-stitching. So I've got a lot of knitting friends. I have a lot of quilting friends. I like to quilt, and I don't have stitching friends. So you guys are going to be my stitching friends, I'm hoping. All right, so I want to talk to you a little bit about how I got into cross-stitching and a little bit about me, and then I'm going to show you some of my works in progress, some of my finished projects, some of my on my immediate radars, as they say, and I'm going to have a drawing at the end. Well, not at the end, but I have a giveaway at the end. All right, so I started cross-stitching back in 1981, and I started because actually that summer I got a kit, and my then boyfriend, now husband, Paul, was a fisherman. And I got this kit and I thought, this is perfect. It's got a fisherman, two fishermen on it, and he's gonna love it. And I stitched it up, and I had so much fun doing it, and I'm actually showing it to you because this is also Exhibit A of the fact that I am not a good, fully finished object person. So this is from 1981, and it's still not finished. But in my defense, I got done with this and I showed it to Paul, and he said, well, that's kind of rude. Fisherman is a jerk at one end of the line waiting for a jerk at the other. I thought it was funny. And I really didn't concentrate so much on that. I just wanted to make the fisher people for him. So it's never been framed. And so I went to the yarn boutique in my little town in Iowa and said, I did this project and I'm here to buy another kit. And the gal there said, oh, you don't want to do that kind of, you don't want to do stamped cross stitch. Counted cross stitch is all the rage now. And so she talked me into doing counted cross stitch. So that was my first foray into counted cross stitch. So here is the book that I bought when I was there, Hummel book. Because sure, why not jump into all different kinds of shading and backstitching? And my grandmother was a Hummel collector, so I made my first design for her. And I loved it so much, and it was the start of just being a fanatic about cross-stitching, as I know a lot of us were back then. I was in college at the time, so I didn't have a lot of time during the school year to be doing big projects, so I started doing little jars. Do you guys remember these kinds of patterns? You'd stitch a jar top and give it as a gift or what have you. I was going to school at Iowa State, which is in Ames, Iowa, and there was a cute little gift shop called Two Turtles there that I just absolutely loved. So I took a couple of my jars in and asked if she wanted to carry those in her shop. And she said yes. So over the years I made probably 200 or 300 little jars, and I would take them to her a dozen at a time, and she would pay me $48 for a dozen jars. And so that was really fun, and it was a nice way to do just little stitching in between classes and such. After I got out of college, I had a friend visiting from out of town, and she brought a friend of hers with her. And that weekend, this friend of hers was going to go to a friend's in St. Louis. We were in St. Louis now. Going to go to a friend's that she had grown up with in Nebraska. And she came back that night after spending a few hours with this friend, and she was talking about this friend of hers was a cross-stitch designer. And I said, oh, what's the name of the person? She said, Karen Heislip. She designs for the Cricut collection. And I said, you mean this Karen Heislip and this Cricut collection? And this just happened to be my very, very favorite designer at the time. I loved her stuff, and this is actually collection number 2, so that's an early one. And she said, yeah, and she needs cross stitchers, model stitchers, to stitch the models for the covers of her little leaflets. Well, I said if she ever needs more, because Carla was going to do it for her, I said if she ever needs more, I'd love to do that for her. And so she got a hold of me a couple weeks later, and she said, I want to stop by, and do you have any unframed pieces that I could see, so I could see the front and the back? And remember, I'm not an FFOer. I stitch a lot and then I don't do anything with it. And I said, oh, I'm sure I can find a couple of unframed pieces. And so she came over, and she wants to see the back to make sure you're neat on the back. And she decided if she said I could cross stitch for her. And so these are all the different cross-eyed Cricut leaflets that I stitched something on the cover for, and I just had so much fun doing it. But I wanted to show you the one that I stitched first, because I was really kind of disappointed in, well, not kind of, I was disappointed in the first one that I had to do, because it was on waste canvas. And I don't know if you guys have stitched on waste canvas like back in the day, but it is tough. And this was a denim jumper. I'm still looking for it. This was a denim jumper, and so I was stitching on waste canvas through denim, and I just thought, well, I hope this turns out looking nice, because I think I could do a better job. Well, I don't know where it is. I had it in versions 1 and 2, so somehow between then and now, I do not have it. But it turned out fine. It was a jumper for one of her daughters. Her daughters are in the front picture, and so it was fun. And I ended up doing a lot more stitching for both her and Vicki. And Vicki Hastings is the one who continues to design such cute things for the Cricut collection now. So I probably stitched for them for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so. And they were wonderful to work with. So after that, I stopped cross-stitching for a while. I had a scrapbook business, and then I started the Loopy Ewe back in 2006, and I was just busy doing all of that, business building and knitting. And I got back into it in 2017 because one of my knitting customers on Instagram showed a picture of a project she was doing, and I felt like I had to make that project. And this is the project, the Houses of Hawk Run Hollow. So I jumped into this, and I had this idea that I was just going to do this one cross-stitch project, and then I wasn't going to cross-stitch anymore. I just wanted to make this one project, which, as you all know, is a joke because I've been cross-stitching ever since. So this is the pattern for Houses of Hawk Run Hollow. And a lot of times when I do a bigger project, I make some changes on it. So you'll notice there's a black square in the middle of that, a nighttime house. And then the very last square down at the bottom, I changed as well. Now this has something called death verse on it. And death verse was really common on samplers back in the day because death was such an immediate reality in their lives back then, and people didn't live nearly as long. There were so many things that could take people down, and so when they did samplers and they said remember me, it's not like nowadays when we have 100,000 Instagram photos and all kinds of ways for people to remember us, but really they didn't have a lot of ways for people to remember them. So I totally get death verse, but I wanted to change it. So this is what the death verse is on this pattern, it says, "When I am dead and in my grave, and all my bones are rotten, remember me when this you see, lest I should be forgotten. Remember me as you pass by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so must you be. Prepare for death and follow me." Well, I just didn't really want to put that on my fun houses. So I looked for different sayings about houses, and what I put in there was, "Every house where love abides and friendship is a guest is surely home, and home sweet home, for there the heart can rest. Peace and rest at length have come, all the day's long toil is past, and each heart is whispering home at last." So again, I left out the nighttime square there in the middle where the yellow house is, and I added in my own home sayings that I found online. And then that last square, that house, I think was in the pattern. Yes, the house was in the original pattern. I just moved it down to the bottom, and I put two little kitties down there because at the time we had two outdoor cats that belonged to neighbors, but they like to hang out on our deck, so I put the two cats in there. So that was going to be my one foray into cross stitching. But after I'd done, I think, one square, I decided, well, obviously I need the village of Hawk Run Hollow, because you can't have the houses without the village. And then when I was buying the village, I thought, well, I really need the map of Hawk Run Hollow. And you know, three pictures are better than one or two pictures in a display. So then I got the map, and then I was looking at the other Hawk Run Hollows, and I thought, well, I think I need the seas or the shores of Hawk Run Hollow, because that's got a cool boat in the middle of it. And so I have 4. And the thing is, I started, when I went to my semi-local, it's 45 minutes away, needlework shop when I got back into doing this. And I talked to the gal there about fabric choices. And I really loved the look of this hand-dyed fabric, and I had not seen that. Well, it's upside down. I'd not seen that before. And so she had this piece of, picture this plus doubloon, I think it's doubloon, in 16 count. And so I got that, not thinking through how big all these pieces are going to be. And of course I went ahead and bought the fabric for all 4 of the Hawk Run Hollow pieces that I had. So they're all going to be pretty big, but that's okay. And then I did a lot of other things before I started the village, but I'm going to show you the village now because it kind of goes along with everything. And this one I actually just finished this spring. I started and I had the first 6 blocks done, and I started this a couple years ago, but just finished it during our COVID period. And again, I did change things. I wanted to personalize the village because I thought that would be fun. You know, there are a lot of people out there who have done the patterns just as they're written, and I always feel like if I can make it a little unique or a little personal to me or my family, that's kind of a fun thing. So again, let's see. Yeah, there's one block, the cemetery block, that's dark. And so I wanted to redo that, and I didn't really want the cemetery on there, even though, of course, places have cemeteries. So I just personalized as many blocks as I could. So the top middle block is the church, and my grandfather was a Baptist minister, and so I put his name in there, and I put his favorite church that he pastored. You know, he was a country pastor, and he had a lot of churches, and he did churches at the same time, you know, several different churches. He'd preach at 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon and 1 in the evening. And so anyway, I asked my dad what probably his favorite church or his most long-lasting church was, and it was Hillcrest Baptist in New York, so I put that in there. And then in the second row, I did Julia's Tea and Coffee Shop. Julia's our daughter, And I knew that I couldn't just do a coffee shop. She's not really into tea, but she's very much into coffee, although I don't think they had coffee shops back then. I know they had tea and dry goods shops. And then at the end of that row, I put my husband in there, which was kind of fun because he is a professional photographer, and he works for, or he volunteers for Hearts and Horses, which is a wonderful organization here in the Colorado area where we live. And so that was fun to put the horses in. And then I did our son in the middle of the next row, our son Danny, on the grist mill, where there's really no connection there with what he does. He's a software engineer. And then on the bottom row for the farm, my mother-in-law grew up on a farm, and her maiden name is Arnold, so I put Arnold Farm there. On the school, I personalized it to my elementary school growing up in Iowa. And then the last square, I wanted to replace the cemetery, so I made that my square, and I made it a dry goods shop with a quilt in the shop window and quilts on the hill, and then 4 kitties to honor some of the cats we've had in our family. So anyways, again, this is what it looks like in the pattern. It was super fun to stitch. One thing I like about 16 count is I don't have to use my magnifying lamp. I can just stitch it without that. So, and again, this is the finished piece. And again, both of them unframed. And I keep saying, well, you know, I really need to get all 4 done and then I can get them framed at once. But in reality, I should probably just frame them, because when I pull them out, I just love looking at them. And that is the point in framing. So, and then I was going to show you a couple of my favorite pieces from last year. So I did Christmas Garden by Blackbird Designs, and I changed the colors to be bright colors, which I had so much fun doing this. And I used Victorian Model Sampler floss. I love her floss. And I stitched it 1/1 on 25 count Lugana, which is probably my favorite kind of material to stitch on. I love how small the stitches are on 25 count, and I love just using one strand and having it fully cover that. And the thing I don't like about stitching 1/1 is I can't do the sewing method, so it takes me a lot longer. And I just came across, I should have looked up that name. I just came across somebody who has a tutorial on how to stitch over 1 and use the sewing method. So I'm going to investigate that before my next Flosstube video, and I'll tell you about that. So I'm hopeful that I can still stitch on 25 count. Here's another one of my favorite pieces. And this is, look, fully finished. This is Strawberry Fields from Blackbird, and again I did it 1/1 on 25 count, which made it fit into this frame from Hobby Lobby perfectly. And doesn't that color frame just look perfect with those floss colors? I very seldom stitch on the called for material. I don't know why. I buy material that I like the colors of or I like the count of, and then I just swap it out. So again, this is 25 count Lugana. I don't know what their pattern originally called for, but I love that I could fit it in this 5x7 frame that way. So those are 2 of my favorite finishes from last year. Now I'm going to show you my more recent finishes, and the first one that I did was Souvenirs of the Heart. And I did that just right before 4th of July. And I need to finish that into a little pincushion, and that's 1/1 on 28 count. And even though that's tiny, it took me forever to do. I don't know why, but I love how it turned out, and it's going to be a cute little pincushion when I get it done. You know, that is another reason I want to do Flosstube, because I feel like maybe that'll push me to finish some of my stuff first. Are you guys a process stitcher or a product stitcher? I think that through, and I really am a process. I really love the process of stitching. I can pick up my stitching and I just feel myself relax, and knowing that I'm just going to be doing the little stitches with the needle, and you're putting stitches exactly where they go, and it's predictable, and it turns out like it's supposed to, and that's so different from life right now, isn't it? Where we don't know what's going to happen, we don't know how things are going to go. So I love the process of stitching, and of course I love the finished products too, but I think I get more joy out of the process itself. Now, in both my knitting and my quilting, I'm more of a product person. I like the process of knitting well enough, but I really like the finished product too. And same with quilting. I'm okay with the process of quilting. I like picking out the fabrics. I don't like the process of sewing as much, and I love the finished product. But for stitching, it's just the process itself that I just find so relaxing and fun. Okay, the next thing I just finished, I think in June or July, maybe early July, is Brenda Gervais' Summer Schoolhouse, well, sorry for the glare, Summer Schoolhouse pattern. And so this is 4 patterns. I know you guys have seen these, and these probably are not in order. Nope. And the way Brenda shows it is finished up as different pin cushions in a bowl, which is adorable. Let's see if I can. But I wanted to stitch it all in one long piece, and it is a long piece. And I did this again, 25 count Lugana 1/1, smoky vintage smoky something. And so I just finished that, and I love how that turned out. So how I did this was, because it's a little, I first thought I was going to have to graph it all out, and then I decided, well, that was going to be ridiculous. So what I did was, I did the bottom row of the vine and flowers, and there's 2 different kinds of flowers in all of the patterns. And then I did the A, B, C, D, E, F, G house all the way over there on the left. And then I did the W, X, Y, Z on the end. And that one was, you know, they're all a little different in size, but that one was significantly shorter because that pattern actually contains a strawberry pattern, which I'm going to make. And I think it contains a little ABC, I don't have it in here, a little ABC sampler, mini sampler that you can do as a pin cushion. So that's why it's smaller itself. So I had to kind of make up the space there. So I stitched in there, stitched in peace in 2020 when the world stood still, but we look up, hope wins. And I think we're in such a weird time right now, aren't we, with COVID going on and everybody in the world, you know, we've been stay at home and now we're not stay at home, but numbers are going up, so we might be stay at home again. And I just think it's such an unusual place in history. None of us have experienced something like this before, and I wanted to commemorate that in my stitching. And I may do that in all of my pieces this year, not necessarily on the front like I did with this one, but at least on the back, when I write on the back some information to keep with the piece. That does mean I'm going to have to be fully finishing. So, but I love how it turned out. One of the reasons I wanted to do it in a long piece, well, no, not one of the reasons, but one of the things I wanted to do in this long piece was the way that these are set out, the guy is facing with his back towards the lady if you put them, the letters in the right order. And when I did that as one long piece, I wanted the guy to be facing the lady, like he's giving her flowers, handing her those flowers. And it was funny, I went to the Shepherd's Bush retreat, I guess it was, well, 2 years ago, and took a class from Brenda, and I was telling her how I had just bought all these patterns and I wanted to do it as one long piece, but I wanted to switch the guy and the girl around. And she said, oh, that's funny, because I actually originally designed it that way, but then changed my mind and put them in a different order. So anyway, I did all of the blocks and left the man and the woman block till the very end so I could figure out my spacing, and then just I stitched both those figures, and then I filled in the letters, and I added that bush because somehow I ended up with extra space. And so I did make a few changes. I added a few things in. I made some branches a little longer to take up some space. So I did add a few different things in there, as I usually do. I don't know why I do that, but it's just fun. It's fun to personalize it a little bit. So I'm going to have to send this off and have it framed, and it was a really fun stitch, really fun to do. Okay, and then I wanted to show you some of my whips that I'm working on. Now I'm not a Stitch Mania person. I have a lot of knitting whips, and I'm not showing my knitting on these Flosstube channels. This is just for my cross stitching, because I do Facebook Live for the shop, and I show my knitting on those, and I show my knitting on my shop blog. So I have places to show my knitting. But I have a lot of whips with knitting because, you know, a yarn will come into the shop, or a yarn that I want to try out to see if I want to add to the shop, or a new pattern will come out that's popular and I want to do it so that I can confer with customers who want to do it. So I have a lot of whips with my knitting, and I just don't want that many whips with my cross stitching. So I'm not a Stitch Mania kind of person. But I'm also not a work on one project at a time person. So I've got 5 whips going on right now. Some that I haven't worked on in a while, but it is Jolly July, and I have not worked on Christmas stuff yet. But the first one that I have to show you that I started is Barbara Anna's Christmas design. And I got this at the Galleria Needlework Galleria in St. Charles last September. I used to live in St. Louis. Paul and I lived there for 27 years, I guess. We moved out here 9 years ago to Colorado. And so we lived in St. Louis a long time, and my parents still live there. So I went last September and went to Needlework Galleria, which was super fun. And one of the booths, or one of the rooms I went to, was Teresa Kitten Stitcher, and she had this little thing is hanging down. She had this done on this green fabric, and I thought it was so cute. The colors just showed up so well. And so this is a piece of color and cotton, and I think the color is called Frog, which would be appropriate. And so I still have quite a bit to do. Finish off the border. Oh no, that's not a border, that's a cute little elf there in the corner. I'll still have to do that. So I may pull this out this month just so I can say I did a little bit for Jolly July, and I'm looking forward to getting it done because it's really cute. I love Barbara Anna's stuff. And then the one that I've been working on for the last couple of weeks, which I love, is this design by Blackbird Designs, and it's out of the Sweet Land of Liberty book. And I think I want to make every single pattern in there except maybe one. And I did make a change on this. Let me find the picture for you. So I didn't want to put Abigail Adams down there, even though this is called Salute to Abigail, is the whole name of the sampler. So let's see if I can hold this up. So what I did is I just took that little bush or plant that is in there, and I made it longer. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if it's glary. So I just took that and I made it double, so it's filling up that space. So what I have left to do is the alphabet at the top and the word America. Yeah, the word America. And then the red and white berries all around the border. And my border matched. I was so happy when I put that last stitch in. So that was fun, and I'm looking forward to working on that again and finishing that up in the next week or so. And then I am also working on, what did I just do with that pattern? Oh well, you know this pattern. Savior's Praise. Again, 25 count Lugana 1/1. and I have really enjoyed working on this one. It's just been so fun. That border was so fun to do, and I'm looking forward to getting that done. I think here it is. So there's still a lot to do on this one. I've got to do the house, I've got to do the whole bottom part, I've got to finish off that pot or whatever that is at the top. So I still have quite a bit to do, and I haven't made any changes on this one. So one thing I'm doing, and I learned this from Daleen at So Grateful, is when I do samplers, and I really love samplers, I use the letters of our family, the initials, our first initials, and I make them a different color. And I love that idea that she shared, so I've been doing that lately in my samplers, and that's kind of fun. Again, making it a little bit more personal, so I love that. I need to get back to that. And then the other one I'm working on is this Renato Perelin Christmas tree. This is another one that I saw, and I immediately fell in love with that. Look how awesome that is. All the little birds and the little hearts, and I love this so much. And I just have the very top tier done. Let me see if I can hold this up. Just the very top part of the tree done, because the pattern is really, it's not full coverage, but there are so many colors in that. I don't know if you can see that. There's so many colors. Let's see. So many colors in there. So what I did was I took it to the copy store and I printed a copy, which was kind of a hassle because they didn't want to do that, even though I promised them I had purchased it and I was allowed to make a working copy. So I made a copy, and then I've been going through and hand coloring in the little parts. And you know, it's not as difficult as a heaven and earth design, but I've never wanted to do a heaven and earth design. So it's just dense with a lot of stitches, and so it's slow going. It is going to be slow going. I colored the top one, and now I just have to go back and color the next section. Although I found out about a program called Pattern Keeper. Pattern Keeper or Project Keeper? Pattern Keeper. I think Pattern Keeper. And it is a program where you have to have it on an Android, I don't know, it's not an iPad because it's an Android, but you know, little computer. It doesn't work on Macs or Apples or anything yet, but you can highlight a symbol and all those symbols get a certain color. So it's super easy. I mean, it would be perfect for this. It's perfect for your heaven and earth designs. But Renato Perelin is not one of the designers that they support yet. And you can't import something. So it would be perfect for this, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I also wanted to show you this book that I got. I mean, his designs are just so fun. And a lot of them are, well, no, that's not true. I was going to say a lot of them are one color, but there are plenty that are not. And he's got some really cool alphabets in this book. And I mean, look at that. That's just, I know I'm not supposed to show you that too long. Oh, here, I can show you this. Cool alphabets, cool samplers. And he does a lot of, look at this one, this is cool. Let me see if I can do this without the, he does a lot of repeating patterns that I just think are, I love that. So there are a lot in here that I want to do too. I love his designs. But first, I really, really want this Christmas tree done. And it's going to be beautiful. All right, and then I wanted to show you this one because I do not stitch with silks yet. But I went, when I was at the Shepherd's Bush retreat, one of the classes I took was with Jeanette Douglas, and you should always take her classes because apparently she frequently gives you a kit that has silks in them. And I was super excited about that, having never stitched with silk before. So these are the silks. Well, let me show you the pattern first. Forgot to take it out of the plastic. Let me see if you can see that. Yeah. So this is the pattern, and it honestly is not a pattern I probably would have done, but when I pulled this out today to look at it, it's further along than I thought. I mean, it's not very far along, but I thought I just had a little teeny bit. And I love the palette of colors. So, has a few little beads on it. I might leave off the bottom part. I don't know. But isn't it fun? And I'm super excited to stitch with silks. So I'm going to get back to that one too. This is another reason I want to do Facebook, because then I feel like I have to be accountable to all y'all, and that's a good thing. All right, and then on my immediate radar, this Barbara Anna design. Now, I know a lot of you guys have done this one, but remember, I just got back to cross-stitching in 2017. You know what I did that just makes me sick? When we moved in 2011, we were moving from St. Louis to Colorado, and we were moving by choice. We have vacationed out in Colorado our whole lives. We absolutely love the mountains. And I remember one day we were coming back from vacation, and Paul and I were talking in the car, and we're like, why are we spending 2 weeks out of the year in our favorite place when we could flop that around? You know, let's move out and live in Colorado and spend 2 weeks back in St. Louis visiting family. And so we made our plans over the next few years to do just that, and we waited till our kids were, well, our son was out of college and our daughter was in her senior year of college when we, the summer before we moved. And but okay, so it was our choice to move, so we had to pay for the moving van and everything. And I had the Loopy Ewe shop in St. Louis, and we were a big online shop, and so it was easier to move out here because we were open very limited hours for in-store shoppers. And my husband had a graphic design business, and he was ready to sell that and focus on his photography. So we decided just to up and move. But it's expensive to move cross country, and you get very picky about what you're willing to pay for when you're paying for the truck yourself. So we got rid of a lot of books, you know, that we're not going to ever use again because books are heavy to move. And I got rid of so many cross-stitch books. And I just thought at the time I hadn't stitched in probably 6 years, and I didn't anticipate stitching necessarily. And one of the reasons I stopped was because, you know, we ran out of wall space for all of my cross-stitching things. Not that I had finished this stuff, but I had finished several pieces. And, you know, with Paul being a photographer, and his photographs are gorgeous, and so we use a lot of our space in the house for that too. And so I was really happy when I got back into it in 2017 to see all the pin cushions and the flat folds and all of the fun little things you can do as well. So while I do love big pieces, I tend to do more holiday things in the small pieces that I can make into dough bowls and, you know, pin cushions and that kind of thing. So all that to say, I am really sad that I got rid of so many of my cross-stitch books, and maybe I would never have used them again, but I just, now that I'm back into it, I just wish I had them. I did save all my Cricut collection books. I did find this one. Here's the one. Here was the first model I did, that denim jumper with the waist canvas. Eesh, not my favorite thing. All right, so on my immediate radar, besides the ones that I'm already working on, and this is another one of them I'm going to pull. So this one I got at the Needlework Galleria. Let's see if that's not glary. Brenda Keys. I don't know what exactly appeals to me about this, but I think it's the colors. I love the depth of color in that piece. I like the piece itself too because I love houses. I love doing houses, but I just love the colors in that piece. So that one's going to be fun. I need to get that kitted up. And then also on my radar, and this is another old one, I'm not sure how old, is Feast of Friendship. Because again, I love the color of that house. I think it's actually 3 different colors of teal, and I will probably do it as one color of teal. And I'm not sure I'll put Feast of Friendship. I'm not sure what I'll put down there, but I just think that's beautiful, so I'm looking forward to doing that soon. And then I really love the Bristol samplers, and so this Harriet Salt is one that I really would like to do, and I would like to do it in silk. So I'm trying to figure out my favorite red silk, and I know I think it's called Mary 395 is another new one that I would really love to get, but I thought maybe I should do this one first, or at least start this one before I go buying a second one. This is another one that I got recently, and this is an old one, I think, because it was on clearance at my local needlework shop, but it is not an actual Bristol sampler, but it's done in the manner of Bristol samplers, and I thought that might be a good one to start with because it's a little smaller than that. Okay, and then I was going to show you a little bit of haul. I don't buy a lot of haul. I don't know, there's so many things I still want to stitch that I don't want to get too many, you know, that's probably a lie. I still like buying haul. But what I did was I went through all of my haul, all of my stash, not my haul, all of my stash, and I took a picture of all of the pages, all of the patterns that I had, and I made an album in my phone so that when I get in the mood to shop for new patterns, I first go to my album and I flip through all of the patterns that I already have that I'm really dying to stitch, and sometimes that's enough. I feel like I've shopped, I have my own stash to shop from. Sometimes it's not enough, and I still go and shop anyways online, but it is fun to have. And then I just was watching somebody's Flosstube, can't remember who, and they were mentioning that the X-Stitch app, which I have, and I keep all of my hand-dyed flosses cataloged in there, that has a kind of a library where you can add all pictures of your stash. So I thought that was good. I do keep a list of my stash on my phone so that if I'm at a needlework shop, I can quickly see if I've already got a pattern or whatever. But I don't know, somehow having the pictures is a lot more fun to look through just when like I said, when I'm in the mood to stitch or buy stitching. So here are a few of my most recent purchases. This is Scarlet House, and this is just a cute little sampler put on a board. What do they call those boards? I have a board I was going to show you from my grandmother. It's a tall one, and you know, back in the day when you had something like this, you really used it, and this is so used that I don't think you can see that, but there's a dip in there. I mean, it is so well used, both sides. But I would love to find the perfect pattern to put on here. And I was also kind of thinking I might put in, do a washer and just make it magnetic so that I can swap them out. I don't know, but I have this. I'm looking for the perfect pattern to put in there. It's not going to be this one though, because this one goes sideways. So. And then I just ordered this, Miss Nettie's Needle Usefuls by Chessie and Me, because I love the scissor fob, which is a scissor, and I love the other little pin cushion, I guess it is, with a spool with a cat on it. And so that was fun. I know Chessie and Me always has cats in her designs. Of course, I had to have coffee first. Haven't done that yet. But that'll be a fun little pillow. And Brenda Gervais Peppermint Pals I finally bought. And then I got Jolly Saint Nick and Rudolph by Priscilla. And I got the thread for that. I'm positive I will not do this on black. I don't want to be stitching on black. I'm trying to do something on a dark navy that's the most beautiful fabric, but it's hard to stitch on dark colors. I remember when I was first stitching, so I was 20, and my mom took up cross stitching too. And I remember her saying, well, I just can't stitch on black fabric at night. And I remember kind of inwardly rolling my eyes and thinking, oh, brother, it's so easy to stitch on black. I don't know what your problem is. And of course, now that comes back to bite me because I also cannot stitch on black at night. So it's cute on black, but I might do it on a charcoal or some kind of thing, just a fun little pillow. And then I bought these two because I wanted to have a doll bowl full of little alphabet samplers. And I thought I would do those in silks. Or is that dumb to do a pin cushion in a silk? Do they get too much wear? Well, they don't really get wear and tear. They're sitting in a dough bowl. Tell me if that's dumb to be using silk for something like this, but I thought that would be easy to buy one color of silk and try it out. And like I said, I am trying to find my perfect red, so I bought Blue Lagoon. This is Belsois, Blue Lagoon, and then I asked in one of the stitching groups on Facebook, what's your favorite red? And I would love for you guys to tell me what your favorite silk red is. I really like more of the blue reds and the deeper reds. So I got Sister Scarlet and Tulips, and of these two, I definitely like the Tulips better, the darker one. So, and I think Tulips is fine, but I know there are a lot of silk companies, and so I'd love to know your favorite red for things like those Bristol samplers. And then this is the last one. I don't really know why I bought it, because it's not necessarily my normal style, but it just was kind of cute. Little Pink Houses by, I don't know who that's by, and I can't read that. Annie B's Folk Art. Yeah, it's cute. It's got a little sampler in it too. So that is my most recent haul. Those are my whips. I am influenced by Flosstube in terms of my purchasing. I love when people show their haul because I've got my little notebook there and I'm writing things down that I think I need. And, like I was watching Stitching with Reese, and now I think I need a French sampler. And that's not even really my style, French samplers, but hers looks so beautiful. And then I saw Deb on Country Stitchers is doing one of those that Reese's doing, and it looks so cool. And then I was watching Hello from Liz Matthews, and I had to write down a couple of fabrics that she showed that I think are great. And of course I love watching Teresa Kogut and all of her samplers, and I'm dying to do that new Americana sampler, but again, thought I should finish this Americana sampler first. And then I watch Carolyn and Jean at the attic and think I need to do all of it in silks. So it's dangerous, this Flosstube, it really is. But it's fun too. All right, since I'm doing Flosstube because I want to make some stitchy friends, I'm going to do a giveaway, and I was in the Silver Needle, their Circle of Friends club, I think, and so this is a heartstring samplery kit. So this is the pattern that I'm going to use for my first giveaway, and it comes with the fabric and all of the flosses and the little rings because it's a floss keeper. Or you can make it into a little, what's that called? Little tin, not a tin, little bin. And so I'm going to give that away. And let's see, let's use the word friend in your comments so that I can do the picker thing, which I'll figure out. I don't know how to do that. I'll figure that out before my next Flosstube. So in your comments, leave a comment that has the word friend in it. And all of the regular rules, you have to be 18 or over, you have to be a subscriber, and right now I have 0 subscribers, so you have a pretty good chance of winning by the time I get this up. And then I will use the random generator to pick a winner, and I will send that off. And it's perfectly fine if you're in the States or you're somewhere international. I'm happy to ship everywhere. So thank you so much for watching my first Flosstube. It was nice to meet you. I hope I get to meet you in the comments section for now, but maybe in person someday. And I just really appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you again. I'll probably do these about, I don't know, every few weeks. Like I said, I do have the yarn shop and I do a lot of knitting, so I want to make sure I have things to show you when I come back. But I look forward to coming back in a few weeks and seeing you again. Bye, everybody.